88, 89, 93, 2005 standard def, and 2009 Blu-ray.
Wow.
You've got the standard def on the left and the Blu-ray on the right. And what you might see is a bit more depth and a little bit more information. And I quickly just went to the 3 strips. So this is the restoration part. Basically, we're working with a color process that uses 3 different black and white negatives with filters in front to capture true color information. And these are 70 years old, and over time what they do is shrink and they start warping. So what we do now is we scan them through and we composite them together into one image, and then basically what we do is we correct for the shrinking and the warping because they're all shrinking and warping independently. So I'll show you what we did here. So you can see that they've got slightly different color values. It's kind of hard to see from the distance, but
my goodness, I can talk again. Oh, why are my arms, please? Why are my elbows?
so here's the color image when it's just basically composited. This is pretty much what the raw negatives look like when they shot it on the set. You can see how bright it is and open because that's typically the way they shot it before they applied the color correction to make it the way that it actually was supposed to look in the theaters. And that's more representative of the theater image. And what we did was we had an answer print from 1939, and so we altered our color actually to match that answer print. So the coloring is a bit different than our last release. You'll notice that you get a little bit more definition in the blacks, and also the color is a little bit more earthy toned, whereas the previous video releases were really popping and more like a cartoon.
Lots of years ago, I was chopping that tree, and suddenly it began to rain. And right in the middle of the chop, I rusted solid. Then I played everything.
So our color correction process itself took about 3 to 4 months. Scanning of the camera negative took over a month itself because we're dealing at 8K resolution, frame by frame. It's a very, very slow process. And the whole entire restoration took almost 2 years because, first of all, you bring the negatives in. They were stored at the George Eastman House. They're in beautiful condition. One of the best conditions I've seen from a 70-year-old negative. And we go through the negative and we repair any damage, and we make note of how the different shots, because each shot shrinks differently because it's a different piece of film. So we make something we refer to as a road map. So we plot out every shot, and we write down that it shot 2 mils, or it shrunk this way or shrunk that way. And as it goes through the printer, we have to stop at every shot and then potentially readjust to get the next shot through. Because we don't want to do any damage because the negative is also brittle with age. So then the cleaning process itself, we probably had 100 people working on the cleaning for a couple of different months. Because the cleaning actually has to happen by hand. Because if we apply an automated process, you get artifacting, which shows up very visibly, very quickly. So what they would basically do is, if there's a hair that came in, they would have to draw around the hair with a stylus. And then what they do is the artists were given options by the computer. It will take the frame before, it will take the frame later, and it will say, what about this fix? And then they'll look at it and say, well, that's not quite right. It actually needs some blending. So I'll have to take some piece here and feather it in. And so that's done piece by piece. And I wish I could tell you how many pieces of dirt they cleaned, because that would be an amazing number, but unfortunately it was very difficult to calculate. So feel free, if you want to come up close, or if you've got any questions later, you're happy to take you're welcome to take a look at that again, and we could show you what we've got. Thanks.
Thank you.